would say to you, how can you have a Jewish state for Jewish people, as the new nationality law says, that controls the whole region from the river to the sea, and any Jewish person can go and live there tomorrow, but there are people from there who cannot return there?
Okay, I want to ask you a question. So would you say that you're against Zionism? How long have you been against Zionism?
It's a good question. For 15 years or
15
so, I've
years.
been aware, since I was politically aware.
Okay,
Maybe longer.
You gave me 2 examples of why you're against Zionism. One of them is only about a year or 2 old, and you've been anti-Zionism
Which
for
one was
15 years. The idea that it's a Jewish state, and we can discuss that too. And the other idea is...
Well, it's always been a Jewish state, right? But the nationality law has just cemented that fact. That is the Jewish state.
Well, what do you mean by a Jewish state? I mean, there's clearly...
What does Israel mean by a Jewish state?
Well, they haven't said that before. They're only saying that now.
Was it not the Jewish state?
It was. I don't think it was called a Jewish state. It was a Zionist state. It's you know what? It's a good question. Let's put it from this way. I would say Palestine is a state that does not allow any Jews in. So it's like it's a very
It's not a state, is it?
Well, it's a place. It's a place that does not allow Jews in.
There's many Jews that live in Palestine.
There's no Jews that live in Gaza, and there's no Jews that live in
Not since 2005. No, there's not.
Yeah, well, today.
That's
And
right.
do you know why?
Because they were settlers that were removed, right?
The settlers removed. Do you know why? Do you know why they're removed?
Hamas turfed them out. Is that
What?
right?
No, Israel removed them, but the reason why they removed them is because if they'd be living there, they would get killed, and Israel doesn't want.
Where did they move them to?
Israel.
They went to live in the West Bank, from what I understand. The majority of the settlers in Gaza went to live in the West Bank, which is just another part of occupied Palestine.
Yeah, but here's the point. You talk about a state being a Jewish state when the laws are exactly the same for any Jewish person as any Palestinian, right? Whereas you've got places like Gaza, right, but the law of return is not about the people that are living there. The law of return is to do with
who can go and live
exactly. So that's a very different thing.
You can go and live there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Someone who was born in Haifa in 1946 cannot go there.
Yeah, but
that's unfair.
But you should be more against Palestine, which does not allow any Jews in, which no Jews can live there at all, right? Like Gaza and many places in the West Bank. Then here's what I don't get. Here's what I don't get. You're against Israel because they don't have they have a law of return where any Jew can come in, right? And even though others can also live there, right? That's not good enough for you. But Palestine, where they don't allow Jews, that's better. You're not. Do you get what I'm saying? This doesn't make any sense. You should be against.
Why don't they allow Jews in Palestine? Where's the law about that? All the Jews that were in the Palestinian territories
because they would get killed. Because they'd get killed.
Went to live in Israel, or some of them live as settlers in segregated cities and towns. They live on the land of Palestine. But
look, I mean, here's the thing.
And the Samaritans, who are somehow they're not Jews, but they are Israelites, and they follow the same Bible. They live in Nablus, and they live very peacefully and happily.
Okay.
Why don't they have a problem? The Samaritan people.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know if they don't have a problem, because I know that Christians do have a problem.
I visited their village, and they live very happily.
Who do they live with?
The Samaritans.
Do they live with other Muslims?
They're living in their own community.
What does that tell you? That it's the same thing with the Christians. Christians live in their own communities.
They're living in Palestine.
Yeah, they're living in Palestine.
Having been to Bethlehem, Christians and Muslims eat together at the same table, and you wouldn't know who was who. I can honestly.
Okay, but there's many places in Palestine, right, where Christians have their own villages, and they do not allow any Muslims in there because they're scared that they're going to have violence and they're going to have problems. Okay, these are kind of problems that you don't have in Israel, right? What I'm trying to say is you're supporting the state that's worse. It's like, you know what it's like. I'll give you an extreme example of this. You've got people that for what's it called, the LGBT community. You got the LGBTQ whatever, where they say the LGBT for Palestine, right? Gays for Palestine, whatever you call it. Yeah. Now, the problem is that the Palestinians would kill them, right? There was a general in Hamas that was killed because he was gay, whereas Israel is the most liberal country for gays and for homosexuals and those kind of people. So, yeah, as far as I know, I mean you have to check out, but I think so. So what I'm trying to say is people are so extremely illogical that they're not thinking straight. You're supporting Palestine that doesn't allow Jews and that doesn't get along with the Muslims there do not get along with Christians, right? Whereas you're not supporting Jews that have exactly the same laws for every single person that lives in there. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, can a Jew marry a non-Jew in Israel?
Can a Jew marry? Yeah, of course.
But I believe they cannot.
Yes, they can.
We'll have to Google that one.
They can't marry under Jewish law.
They can't marry under Jewish law.
Yeah, but they can marry.
Okay.
They can marry. They can. You can just get.
Is there discrimination in Israel against non-Jews?
No.
None at all. I'd be surprised.
Okay. See, this is the problem. This is the problem. No, this is the problem. This is what you're doing.
There's homophobia in every country.
What you're doing is This is I've had the same problem every single time. What you want to do is you want to focus on Israel, and you're going to ask, are they perfect? And anything that they're not perfect, you say, no, let me finish. No, I'm not saying they're perfect. I didn't say that. And anything that you can find that's not perfect, you're going to point to that and say, oh, see, they're bad, right? But instead of having a normal approach which says which one's worse and I'm going to support the better one, which is reasonable and logical, what you're saying is I'm going to look at anything that Israel's done wrong, I'm going to say, okay, they're bad, and I'm going to ignore everything that Palestinians have done wrong and say, well, I won't look at there. I won't look there. So this is an irrational way of thinking, and it's not a reasonable. And the only reason why people do that is because I believe is because they're brainwashed. In other words, you hear it in the media over and over again, and eventually you just sinks in. Oh yeah, Israel bad, Palestine good, and that's how it sinks into your head. But if you look at it from a reasonable perspective, it makes no sense. Right? That question itself shows that your whole reason is illogical, because what you're saying is, are they perfect? You said so yourself, right? That was your question.
You were alluding to them.
No, I never said they're perfect.
You said the laws.
It's pretty close, but they're not perfect. They're pretty close. But no, of course they're not perfect. There's no country that is perfect. My point is that they're far better. They're not even close. If they were close, right, you should still go and support the ones that is better than the other one. But they're not even close. So the fact that you're supporting the one that's worse shows that you're brainwashed. And I don't mean that like you're a bad person. I just mean that in the sense that when you hear something over and over again, people tend to start believing it without question. It goes automatically into their brain.
I am going to take your point on the discrimination in Israel, because there is discrimination against minorities in every country. In Israel, in the Palestinian territories, in Pakistan.
But the question is, what's
better and worse in some places.
Yeah, but we have to, when we're judging a country against another country, what we need to do is say which one's worse. So who do you think's worse?
About what?
Who do you think's more discrimination?
I think the state of Israel has a more stable condition than what's happening in Palestine, and the injustice that's happening in that region is not happening in the state of Israel. It's not happening in Nazareth and Galilee and Haifa. It's happening in the West Bank, where the territory is occupied illegally.
I don't think it's it.
And that's where the segregated roads are. That's where the apartheid exists. Okay. So that's what I'm against.
So I've got two responses to that. Number one, my first response, which is you're focusing purely on one side and looking at their negative things and ignoring the other side, and then saying therefore these are bad because you just ignore the other side. That's number one. That's my first response.
The bad on the Palestinian side.
And the bad on the Israeli side, ignoring the bad on the Palestinians. That's my first response, which I said already before, but I'm just repeating it. And my second response is that I don't know the legal issue about why it's considered illegal to settle there. What I'm interested in is the moral issue.
Build roads for Jews only.
What I'm interested is the moral issue.
Towns for
right.
Jews
So if you're saying that that's illegal, I have no idea the law. I have no idea international law. If you're going to say it's immoral, then we can have a discussion.
Well, that's the thing. When it comes
so let's talk about the morality.
Morality is about what you like and what you don't like.
No,
you might say homosexuality is immoral. If you're Jewish, I guess you would. I don't have a problem with it.
If you don't believe in morality and you only believe in laws, then you have no leg to stand on, because whatever you make the law, that becomes correct. But that's ridiculous.
Are homosexual acts immoral?
I'm not here to talk about homosexuality.
For example.
Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not.
You believe it's immoral to be homosexual.
I'll be honest with you.
So
I don't know. That's my. That's the law. If you want to, if you want my real answer, my real answer is I don't know.
There's people that think you can marry a 9-year-old.
Yeah, look, here's
that's their morals. Okay. But the law is 16.
Yeah, okay, the law is 16.
So the law is Palestine is occupied.
If the law is to slaughter all short people, this guy's going to go first. This guy's going first. I'm going second. I'm going second. Does that become moral? You have to. If you don't have a way to judge morality.
Well, that's very true. Slavery was legal.
Yeah. So if you have no way to judge morality, then your whole argument completely loses its basis, because every country decides their own legal system, and obviously in Israel it's legal because they've decided that that's what they're doing. So of course it's legal. So it doesn't. Your whole legal argument makes no sense. If you're going to have a moral argument, we can have a discussion. If you don't think there is such a thing as morality, then there's no discussion, and that's the end of it.
I would say morally, I would say anybody from that region.
Well, let him finish.
Yeah, you know, let me wrap this up.
Let's wrap this up. Wrap this up.
You can jump in. Morally, I would say, and I go back to my beginning point. If you're going to say that any Jewish person in the world can live there tomorrow, but people who are from there and born there cannot return to their homes, that to me is immoral.
Okay, and I'll tell you why I don't agree. Okay. So the reason why Israel does not allow Palestinians to return is because there's basically take Gaza for example, Hamas. Right, Hamas on its charter for years said they wanted to wipe out all the Jews, drive them into the sea. Right, that was on their charter for years.
And what about all through the 60s, 70s?
Can I respond? Can I just respond and then you come back? Therefore, they are an enemy, and they have no obligation to treat an enemy with rights, with any of these kind of rights that you're talking about. Now, in 1948, when they had the War of Independence, right, that is when the people that many people that lived there ran away from Israel. Right, and Israel felt that. By the way, the person
voluntarily.
They left voluntarily, and Israel said, "We're not allowing you back." Right, and I think that is within their rights, because they're people at war, and they feel that these are the kind of people that want to kill them, and therefore they have that right to do that. I believe they have that right to do that. Morally, I believe that they have that right. Okay. Also, that's from a moral perspective, but also going back to what we said, we were discussing before about a fairness perspective, about you only looking at one side. Many Jews were chased out of Arab lands, right? And if you're going to start saying that they should, that Palestinians should be allowed back in Israel, how come you're not fighting for Jews to be able to go back to all the countries that they were kicked out, like Iraq or any other country? They should get all their property back, and they should get all citizenship back, etc., etc., etc.
Would want to?
I don't think they would want to. I don't think they would want to.
I would be the first to be in favour of that if they did want to, and so would the Palestinians.
Okay, but the thing. Okay, the Palestinians, I don't think so.
Of course they would. If you said, do you want the Yemenite Jews to go back to Yemen and leave me my house, they would support it.
No, it's not true. They said very specifically what they want. They want them to be in the sea. That's what they voted for. They voted for Hamas, and that is what they said in the charter, that they should want them into the sea, not in any Arab lands, any Muslim lands.
Why would they unnecessarily want them in the sea? They want them in the sea.
Okay, so here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. You're stating different to what they're saying. You're claiming something different to what they are actually themselves are saying. And then when I show you that that's what they're saying, you say, oh yeah, but there's a reason for it. So this discussion's completely wonky. It's like when I show you that it's not true, you give a reason for it. So first of all, you were wrong. Right? It's not what they want. And now you're saying, yeah, it's wrong, but there's a reason, without even admitting that you're wrong.
You keep mentioning the Hamas Charter. There's a broad spectrum of opinion in the Palestinian.
But that's what they voted for.
As there is in
That's what they voted for.
In 2005, 11 years ago.
Exactly, that's what they voted for. Look, here's the thing. If you go back to the 1920s, right? If you look into Wikipedia, you look at the I forgot what it's called, pogroms. It wasn't called pogroms. I don't know what the term. What? No, that's in Russia. But I don't know what the term for it is in Israel, where they're killing Jewish communities. I don't know what it's called, but like a pogrom. It has a different term for it. Anyway.
You should. Is the first community.
So in the 1920s, if you look at Wikipedia, and you look at for the first like 5 or 10 years, don't know exactly how much it is. All of the pogroms were Muslims against Jews. and only afterwards did they start fighting back, right? And then it was equal. Like they were killing each other. But the whole argument to say that Hamas, right, was they only voted for Hamas because of all the problem before is ridiculous. Number one. Number two, if that's your argument, then surely for the same perspective, Israelis should want to wipe out all the Palestinians for the same reasoning, because they're being bombed all the time. But they don't vote for a government like that. Nobody votes for a government like that.
A government that mows the lawn every few years and kills 1,000 people in Gaza.
They don't have. Here's the problem. You're comparing things that are uncomparable. You can't compare a government that says that we want to throw all the Jews into the sea, and a government that says we're going to protect ourselves and we're going to fight back when we are fired upon. It's not comparable. Anyway, here's the problem. The problem is that you don't come from a balanced point of view, because like I said to you from the beginning, is that if you had a balanced perspective, you would look at things in balance. The fact that you supported Palestine over Israel, right, or over Zionism, shows that you don't have an unbalanced view, and all your arguments just really kind of show that, because you only want to focus on let's focus on what Israel's supposed to. I don't even think these are things that are done wrong, but I'm just talking about from your perspective. You're focused on things that Israel does wrong, but you're not willing to focus on what any of the things that Palestinians.
If I said to you that I'd like to see
it's an unreasonable approach.
One state for all people that live between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean, one man, one woman, one vote, and they'll all live together, and no one needs to go back to Yemen or Germany or wherever they came from, and anyone who wants to live there, who's from there, can live together. Would I still be brainwashed and biased?
No, you wouldn't be brainwashed and biased. I just think it's a terrible idea. From a Jewish perspective, a terrible idea.
Well, that's my hope and my dream. And
I hope I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, look, if things change, right, and things change dramatically, I don't have a problem with living with Arabs, Muslims, or any of those people. I have a problem with the threat of death. It's very easy for you to say to Israelis, oh yeah, you should do this, you should do that, but you're not going to suffer the consequences, right? It's really I'm going to put it this way,
you because going to suffer the consequences?
Me, I live in England. I'm talking about the people that are voting for it. I don't vote. You're having a discussion with me about the principle of it.
Well, you could live there if you wanted to,
yeah.
And then you could come and live in England if you wanted to.
Yeah. You're avoiding the argument.
Don't have
you're squiggling out of the argument. But here's the point.
Sorry,
the point of the argument is that you don't have to suffer with the consequences, but the Israelis they have to suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
So the Israelis, right? If they voted for, if you had more Arabs, more Muslims than Jews, right? They would probably vote for a Muslim leader, right? And then the next thing could happen is that they could slowly start fighting against the Jews, right? And then squeeze them like orange juice out of Israel. Anybody that's got any common sense would know this. You have no right to tell a people that they should take a risk for their own life. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm Irish heritage, and I'm grown up here.
Okay, so in Europe, for the past 2,000 years, Jews were kicked out of Israel, right, 2,000 years ago. And they've lived in Europe for 2,000 years and persecuted in Europe, right? And you come from Europe, it's true, it's from Ireland, where there wasn't many Jews, although there was in the past maybe 100 years, but before that I don't know. But in general, we're talking about Europe in general, where Jews were persecuted. Finally, they get to go back to Israel, and you have the audacity. I know you're an honest person, and I don't think you're a bad person, but I'm saying your argument, right? The audacity to tell Jews, right, that they don't have the right to protect themselves. I know you're not saying that, but the outcome of what you're saying would have that implication.
It seems to me that the Zionist movement want three things, and it's a circle that can't be squared. They want the whole region from river to sea.
Wait, stop there. Which river, which sea? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
The River Jordan to the Mediterranean. To Eretz Israel, the land of Israel.
Mediterranean, is that where Gaza's on the Mediterranean Sea?
Yeah. But so is Haifa, West Coast.
So what you're saying is they want Gaza?
They want the West Coast.
Which part don't they have that they want? Are you talking about West Bank and Gaza?
Let Gaza go? Are we letting that go? Okay, they don't want Gaza.
They don't want Gaza. Fine. If they had Gaza, then they would have to accept them as citizens. They don't want Gaza.
Well, they'd have to accept them as citizens. They want the West Bank, and they have it occupied, but they
They want it in a war.
They don't want to accept the citizens.
They want it in a war that they didn't start, and they have every single right to take that land that was, that they started a war.
Then give the people that live there citizenship. They're Israelis now. They live in Israel now.
You know what I believe? I believe they shouldn't give them citizenship because they shouldn't give them the right to vote, but Israel should have more control over the area, so that they could.
What would you call that? Third class, fourth class.
Well, here's the thing. It depends how you define second-class citizens. If you define second-class citizen as a citizen that has the laws that are different to everybody else, right? Then I don't think there should be second-class citizens at all. I think they should have all the laws exactly the same. But I think they shouldn't be able to vote because it's dangerous for Jews, and we don't have to answer. Jews don't have to answer to you that has some idealistic thing about second-class citizen when they have to protect their lives. We don't. You know what? They don't care about your ideals about international law. That's not their law. They have to protect themselves. You don't care about them dying. They care about them dying. Okay? They've lived and been persecuted in Europe for 2,000 years, and you have no right. You have no right to tell them. You have no right to tell them how they should protect themselves. Okay? They're not there. They in Israel. The people in Israel have always wanted peace from the beginning, from the word dot, and the Arabs and the Muslims, the Muslim Arabs around them have been trying to kill them, and you have a problem with people trying to protect themselves. I think you're completely brainwashed. Obviously, you don't see it, but I can't help you.
So you have helped me by speaking to me. We disagreed, but I really respect the fact that you took the time. I hope we'll do it again. I think the gentleman wanted to speak to you, but I'm going to let you go. Fellow, jump in by all means. Thank you very much.